Immediately, Omar set her eyes on her twins. She noticed one had a different skin. She carried the one with a different skin and snapped life out of it immediately. She pleaded with the midwife to throw away the dead baby and keep it as a secret. Mba was an orphan who was adopted by a village hunter and his wife. He was saved during a fire outbreak in the village, which killed his parents and most villagers. Mba never spoke a word about his family, village, or his real parents to anyone. When the hunter and the wife tried to ask him, he never responded. He kept to himself most of the times, but he was hardworking and respectful. The hunter noticed he loved taking care of animals whenever he brought any animal home. Mba would plead with the hunter not to kill or sell them, but rather he would take care of them and started rearing them. The hunter brought some animals from Mba, who started rearing and selling them when they were matured enough. The hunter and the wife were very kind and loving to Mba. They made sure he never lacked anything. Mba became a great young man in the village, loved by everyone. He was expected to get married as the hunter and the wife were getting old, and they requested that Mba grant them the favor of seeing their grandchildren before they die. He promised them he would grant their request, as they've been kind and loving towards him since they saved and adopted him from the fire. As days went by, Mba took an interest in Omar. He admired her and loved how she kept to herself, unlike most ladies in the village. Though Omar wasn't as beautiful as her elder sister, Naza, Mba loved and admired her. Omar and Mba found comfort in each other's arms. After their daily activities, they would meet at their spot and discuss at length before going home. Omar was a hard-working trader in the village. Her parents were rich, but she refused to be lazy. She preferred to work hard for herself, unlike her elder sister, Naza, who was lazy and always thought she could marry anyone she wanted because she was beautiful. Naza had many suitors coming to ask for her hand in marriage, but she wasn't pleased or satisfied with any. Unlike her sister, Oma never had men admiring her or seeking out her hand in marriage. She was not as beautiful as Naza and was never noticed by anyone except Mba. Oma was always the shadow around her sister, as her sister was the light and a beacon of beauty. Naza was curious why Mba neglected her and chose her sister. She had tried to make her sister leave Mba by fabricating lies about him and how rumor had it that he was impotent. Oma never believed Naza because she knew she enjoyed being the center of attention, and now she's not. She was threatened by it. So Oma tried as possible not to discuss her relationship with her sister. But Naza wouldn't let a day pass by without asking her sister about Mba and how their relationship was going. Oma tried her best to answer her sister tactically. Oma and Mba were discussing in their favorite spot. When Naza saw them, she felt a twinge of jealousy of what her sister had. The way they were happy made her think she never had what Oma and Mba had. When she got home that evening, she thought about how she never experienced the joy, love, and openness in her relationship the way Oma and Mba did. She also wondered why Mba did ask her out, as she was prettier than Oma. Oma was pretty, and every man in the village and its environs wanted her, but not Mba, and that made her wonder why. She decided she would find out why Mba despises her She knew her sister always visited Mba every evening, and they would go out to their favorite spot and spend some time with each other. She waited towards the time her sister would visit Mba to visit him. Naza entered his hut. He loved the way his hut was organized and clean. He admired Mba, who was shirtless and as he was expecting Omar, not her. Naza offered him some meat that she brought for him. Mba ate the meat. She became unconscious and unaware of what he was doing. Immediately, Naza undressed him and herself. As they were together, Omar walked in on them. Omar ran home in tears. She couldn't believe that the two people she loved most could betray her. She packed all she could and left the village immediately, as she didn't want to see Naza and Mba again in her life. Months later, Naza was pregnant and now married to Mba, who despises her for her deceit. Mba never touched her or made love to her except that day she lured him with poisonous meat. Naza became frustrated at how she had ruined her life by getting pregnant for a man who was in love with her only sister. She wished she could turn back the hands of time and make things right between her and Omar, but it was too late. She didn't know her sister's whereabouts. She tried all in her power to make her husband love her and sleep with her, but all was to no avail. Naza was depressed and was looking for any solution that would help her situation. She also feared that Mba might reject her unborn child if he was not satisfied that the child was his. She prayed that her child would come out normal and prove to Mba that she didn't trap him with another man's child. A few days later, Naza was in labor. Mba had taken her to the village with midwife, but was asked to leave the women to do their thing. Meanwhile, Oma in a faraway land, she discovered she was pregnant too for Mba a few weeks after she left the village. She decided she would keep it a secret and raise her child without letting Mba or Naza know about her child. Oma later gave birth to a baby girl who was different and beautiful. She loved her from the moment she set her eyes on her. She vowed to protect her daughter, Ugo, from her wicked sister, Naza. Back in Mba's village, Naza gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The boy was perfect and looked a lot like Mba, but the girl was different, and that made Naza scared. At that instant, she decided she was okay with a child, and he was a boy, and the heir apparent to Mba. She held her baby girl and squeezed the life out of her in a snap. She lied to the midwife that she didn't know what happened to her, as she had stopped breathing. She pleaded with the midwife to throw away the child in the evil forest and never let Mba know she had twins. The midwife agreed after Naza told her she would pay her a huge sum of money to keep her secret from her husband. She didn't like the child for having a skin condition and looking different from her brother, as it was rare to see people with such skin conditions in the village, and people always mocked them for being different. Naza feared Mba might reject her for birthing a child with a rare skin condition. This skin condition is known as albinoism, and some people reject them in society by discriminating against them and calling them names. Mba was happy to see Naza and his son Obum. He threw a party and celebrated them. At that point, Naza felt happy and accepted by Mba. She was happy that she had finally won the heart of her husband, though she still faced the pain she caused her sister. She decided to enjoy every moment with her husband. Meanwhile, Oma and her daughter Ugo were thriving in all they did. She had men interested in her, but she felt it her responsibility to protect and raise her daughter, who looked different from other young girls out there. She feared a man might love her as a wife, but not love her daughter because of her rare skin condition. She also taught her daughter to love herself and her skin, and not to let people call her or names or say things that will affect her. Most people love how Oma and her daughter are contented and happy with their life and business. Naza sleeps so deeply that she always forgets she has a child to care for. She was lazy and barely does anything around the house, but mostly fills the gap and helps her. He had warned her most times about her laziness and deep sleep, but she couldn't help herself. Most times she nags about it and Mba always look out for every opportunity to compare her with her sister. But Mba told her he was only looking out for her and their son Obum. Mba wakes very early before dawn most days to go hunting as he had learned from his adopted father. He also discovered Naza enjoys bushmeat as she would be asleep most times when he would return amid their son crying while Naza would be fast asleep. But that wouldn't stop Naza from enjoying the bushmeat her husband had caught for her. One day, as Mba had left for his hunting, on his way back home, he was summoned by his dying father, the hunter, who saved him and adopted him. He was delayed by him as he prayed for him and advised him to tell his children the story about his birth home, as he never talked about his real parents or his home to anyone. While Mba was still with his father, Naza woke up and discovered she had laid on her soul and suffocated. Her world shattered. The laziness and deep sleep Mba always complained about had finally caught up with her. She didn't know what to do, but she knew she couldn't tell her husband the truth. When Mba returned, she met Naza crying. She lied to her husband that their son had a bit of fever this morning and died. Mba was devastated about the death of Obum. He didn't know what to believe, but he knew Obum was healthy that morning before he left. The death of Obum caused a great pain and silence in their home. Naza was sad, lonely, and had no one to talk to. Her husband became a shadow of himself and started drinking to forget his pain. Years later, the pain continued, and nothing could be done to restore their marriage. Naza became sick and requested to see her sister. She decided she had to make peace with her sister before she would die, and also tell her the truth about what she had done. Naza pleaded with Mba to look for her sister Oma as her dying wish. Mba sent words to people to help in search of her, and after a few months, they found Oma. But before then, Naza became better and told Mba it wasn't necessary anymore to look for her sister, as she was healed and stronger. Mba refused. He insisted he needed to apologize to Oma for what they did to her. He told her if she doesn't have a conscience, that he does, and he feels guilty, and Oma deserves an apology from them after these years. Naza told him that she was not going to see her, that he knew he still loves her, but she wouldn't be a foolish woman to accompany her husband to see her lover. Mba was shocked at what Naza said, as he reminded her that the lover she was talking about was her only sister. Mba also reminded Naza that she was wicked and heartless, and it was out of her jealousy and foolishness that brought them and caused them this pain in their marriage. Mba got to the village where Oma was. He went to her and apologized for breaking her heart. Mba told her he never intended to hurt her, but he was too weak to allow the charm in the meat to get to him. As they were talking, Oma's daughter Ugo walked in and greeted them. Mba called her Nne. Oma was surprised. Mba told her that Ugo had the same skin and looked exactly like her mother. He pleaded with Omar to tell him the truth about Ugo, but Omar refused. Mba decided to look for his place to sleep in the village, as he intended to find out the truth before he would return. He asked around, and everyone told her that Omar never had any man and had never married before. Mo said she was pregnant shortly after she came to their village. She kept to herself. After days of begging and Mba's refusal to return to his village, Omar decided to tell him the truth about. Mba told her that Ugo looked exactly like her real mother. His father had to leave his village with his mother when people were constantly abusing her because of her rare skin condition. But his father stood by her. But unfortunately, the village they relocated to experienced harsh fire disaster that killed almost all the villagers. He was rescued by a hunter who found him lifeless in the forest as he lost his parents to that fire. He never talked about it as it was a pain in the heart that he couldn't. Omar was a bit surprised to hear the story about Mba's real parents as he had refused to speak about them even to his adult. As Omar told Mba that he was the father of Ego, Mba was relieved and happy as he rejoiced that his mother had finally come back to him. Mba pleaded to Omar to allow him to be part of his daughter's life, as he has missed a lot of years with her due to the hatred and betrayal of her sister, Naza. Ugo also pleaded with her mother as she would love to spend time with her father and also get to know her mother's sister, Naza. Mba agreed as they all went to visit Naza and for Ego to know her roots. Naza saw them and she pretended to be happy when she saw Ugo. She screamed, "You evil child, you have come to haunt me. I will snap life out of you like I did before." She ran and grabbed Ugo by the neck, but Mba pulled her out. Ugo went to Naza and whispered in her ears to confess. Ugo was surprised how all Naza did in the past flashed before her eyes, and she told her to confess. Naza told them how jealous she was of Omar and Mba's relationship, that she seduced him with meat she added charm. She also told them she gave birth to twins, and the girl looked exactly like Ugo with a rare skin condition. She had to kill her out of fear that Mba might not like her or accuse her of cheating on him. Naza confessed how her laziness and deep sleeping made her lose her son Obum as she laid on him and suffocated him. Mba was in the way of the things Naza did. Oma too. Oma told her she had forgiven her and she had moved past all she did to her. She advised her to seek for God's forgiveness and try to live a better life for the sake of herself and not for others. Oma allowed Mba to become part of Ugo's life. Though they are not married, they found happiness again with each other. Naza decided to leave Mba as she couldn't forgive herself for all she did, and she knew Mba couldn't forgive her. She decided to live her life serving God and helping others. The moral of this story is to be kind to one another, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave us. This verse highlights the importance of kindness and forgiveness, which are central themes in this tale. Just as Mba and Omar ultimately forgive Naza and seek to build a better future, we are reminded to extend compassion and forgiveness to others, reflecting the grace that God has shown to us. Until next time, bye bye.